One of the most intimidating things to do when on an overlanding trip is change a tyre. The first thing you need to know is that the vehicle must be on level ground when you do it. If you have to drive a few meters with a flat tyre so that you can get onto level ground, that's fine. But make sure that the vehicle is on the flat, otherwise it's going to run away with you as you lift it up on the jack. When you're changing a tyre, you must make sure that the handbrake is up and the car is in first gear. Also a good idea to put a stone behind the wheel if you're in any doubt as to whether the vehicle will roll. When you're changing a tyre, you need two things. The first is this bottle jack, which is rated to lift more than 6 tons. And the second is this wheel spanner. Unscrew the top of the bottle jack, otherwise you'll spend 6 days trying to pump it to the right height. Then you're going to tighten this hydraulic tightening screw with the little tool provided. If you don't do this, the jack will simply not lift up the car. It is very important that before you jack the car up, you take the spare wheel off. And that is simply because it's a fairly heavy wheel, and the process of taking it off can make the vehicle shake, and you don't want the vehicle to shake off the jack. This wheel, although it looks like a friendly piece of equipment, in fact weighs 60 kilograms. And that means that you will need a friend to help you take it off. And 1, 2, 3. Before you jack up the car, just loosen all of the wheel nuts very slightly. Now obviously for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm on a nice flat piece of concrete. Out in the field that's unlikely to be the case. So if you're in some thick mud or deep sand, you need to find yourself a big rock to put the jack on. Otherwise all that's going to happen is that you're going to jack the jack into the earth as opposed to the vehicle into the air. The jack needs to be placed ideally underneath the differential housing, which is this round piece of metal here. If you've got a protective plate like this one, then just put it as close to the wheel that's being lifted as possible. And let us begin the laborious process of jacking up the Land Cruiser. You need to lift the car up such that the wheel has cleared the ground by maybe an inch or so. And voila, we now have a vehicle floating in the air. It is always a good idea to put the spare tyre underneath the vehicle on the off chance that the vehicle falls off the jack, because what you don't want is the exposed wheel hub in the dirt. Remember that you have loosened these nuts already. Next comes removing the spare tyre and then replacing the spare tyre with the flat tyre, like so. Because when we put this tyre on, we're going to be shaking the vehicle around and we don't want it to fall off the jack. Now putting this on can be tricky, especially with one person, but it is doable. We've just got to line up all the bolts and then slowly maneuver it into place. And eventually it should go on. There we go. And once you have one nut on, you're pretty much safe. Tighten them to the point that the nuts are just touching the rim. You don't want to try and tighten them too hard. And remember, when you tighten them opposite to each other. So we've done this one now, we'll go opposite to there, and then we'll come around here and do the same, going opposite. Right, now that your tyre is securely on, and when I say securely on, I do mean securely on, you're going to let the jack down. If the tyre is not securely on, this is most likely going to be the last place you lie. Just going to release the screw, and don't get a fright when the vehicle comes down a little. Ideally, you want your head out of the way. Voila! When the vehicle is on the ground, you're going to tighten these nuts as hard as you can. They should be torqued to 150 Newton meters of torque. Basically, it means you're going to tighten them as hard as you can. And then give it a little stamp. And now you can carry on with your overlanding safari.